1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Snowstorm outside. Bunch of snow on the ground. Really slushy. Front of the building. Music blasting. Standing outside the car and drinking and partying in freezing weather. That's what people do. You know who else thinks that's a good idea? Nobody. All right, so this one is tough. Was tough for me to do, not just because of editing, but because I'm trying to figure out what I should and shouldn't say, or more like can and can't say, without pissing my elders off, without giving too much stuff away. But this little corner of darkness that I got here on YouTube is supposed to be for educational purposes as well as entertainment. So here we are. Somebody messaged me recently to ask me questions about their experience, feelings, actions, etc. that they went through not too long ago. And now they're trying to figure out what happened to them and why. But within this message, a few questions stood out to me that this guy asked me. What's happening to me? Am I going through my awakening? Was this how your awakening was? Does this happen to everyone? I had to think about it for a minute, and I realized after reading a whole paragraph he wrote, yes, this guy's going through his awakening. No, what he explained is not how my awakening was. And yes, this happens to every vampire, this being the awakening. And also, no, it does not happen the same way for everybody. So yes, let's talk about what the awakening is. Awakening. What is your awakening? In simple terms, the awakening is simply puberty for vampires. It's vampire or vampiric puberty. Now, with puberty in general, most people go through the same things but at different times with different results. Yet everybody goes through puberty. Some people's feet grow bigger and faster first. Some people keep the same body type but just grow longer arms first. Some people's voice get deeper all of a sudden. Some females get bigger breasts at a young age. Some females don't grow any and all of a sudden they grow big hips. Some people get really fat. Some people grow tall and then just get skinnier and stay that way. Some guys sometimes grow a lot of body hair on their face. Some guys' facial hair grow in with bits and pieces of grays in them. But in the case of vampires, there are certain obvious animal instincts once the awakening starts that might come into play. Things that like ancient humans probably needed for survival a million years ago start to become obvious to some newly turned vamps. Most people don't pay this no attention, but this is exactly what it is. So I'm going to throw out there a couple of different things that different vamps have told me they went through during their awakening or how it was for them. Let's start with the senses. Sudden change in senses, like in this case, a sense of taste, where things all of a sudden start tasting different, stronger, or worse. Or you suddenly crave things you never did before, or you start to crave things a little more often. Some people say their sense of taste has been so strong that when they smell food in the air, they can pretty much taste it all the time, every time they smell food. Sense of sight might seem to get sharper, or if I could try to break that down, you start to see the different ways you can see. So you start to learn how to differentiate your peripheral vision from your regular vision, and learn how to use your peripheral vision, meaning see through it when you feel like it, not by accident, or learn how to see more narrow and focus only on one thing, cutting out the peripheral vision. So now you're more focused on whatever your target is you're looking at straight ahead. That was a lot of geek and nerd talk just now. Oh well, try to keep up. Sense of smell also becomes great at times. Also, the mind might start racing and can't stop. You might suddenly be thinking all the time, thinking too much all the time, thinking about too many things at once. Every little thing makes you want to think. Most of the time it gives you a headache, a really bad headache, where your brain is just doing too much. Some people say they suddenly just feel drained out the blue when they go places or when they do things. Some people get a sudden burst of energy out of nowhere when they're not eating or drinking anything. Like, as if they suck the damn energy from people around them. Some people get much more sensitive to touching and being touched. Some people get even more sensitive to things that they weren't sensitive to before, like say sunlight. And here are all the things that happen to a person in real life that you might see with vampires in media. This is that in media, it takes the fiction to a whole nother level with it. So what else we got here? What else might happen? I'm gonna call it seeking. Once the awakening starts, the seeking process will be where the newborn vamp tends to go out exploring, looking for others like themselves, looking for answers, or looking to be accepted for being different, or looking for help, or looking for some kind of fun that they probably didn't experience yet, even if they don't know what that is. This is a silent cry for help that every older and more experienced vampire will recognize from the start. That unconscious instinct that makes a person find themselves at a goth or alternative party, or a vampire function alone to make friends, to find other people who are different like them. It's weird how this instinct is what can bring a newly awakened vamp to a vampire function to party with other vamps and such without even realizing that that's what they're doing. Also, what tends to happen is a beacon goes off. Something in the brain and the body makes it easier for them to see and recognize other alternative people, other vamps, or other people who are different just by looking at them. Being in their travels every day, going back and forth to work or school, being at a party, or just walking down the street, they can see and notice when the people around them, when somebody in a crowd is different just like them. This is what I call seeking, going out there, finding these things out for themselves because they don't have any other way to do it. And the instinct becomes so strong that nothing can stop them from doing it. Another change that happens during awakening, emotions. A sudden change in feelings that seems to just happen for no reason. Or suddenly feeling a certain way that's completely uncalled for. Being empathetic 1 minute and not giving a damn about who lives or dies the next. I read doing research long ago that this tends to happen because the brain is trying to learn how to control what it's feeling and how to cope with different emotions in certain situations. Now, despite what anybody says, emotions are something that nobody can control because it's a natural thing. You can control what you do about whatever emotion you're feeling, but you can't control feeling that emotion. That's like trying to control how long or how fast you want your hair or your nails to grow. You can't control how long they're going to grow. You can't control how fast it's going to grow. You can't control the fact that it's going to grow, but it will grow. You're going to get mad. You're going to be sad. You're going to feel jealousy. You're going to feel emotionally hurt no matter how much you try to run from it when you see it happening. You might now be better at recognizing when it's going to happen, but that's not going to control you feeling it. Vamps can't, just like people, vamps can't stop feeling certain emotions 100%. But what a vamp, an experienced vamp, can do is learn when, I guess, to feel that emotion. They could be in the middle of the emotion, but that moment might not call for it. A really experienced vamp will know, okay, I got stuff to do, and they can not feel it at that moment. For that moment, they might flip their little emo switch and not care about the outcome right then and there, or not care about what's happening right then and there, but care more about the outcome. So it makes it seem like they're heartless and don't care, but the reality is they might care way too much and they're choosing not to show it right then and there. It's hard for people to control their emotions enough to not show it when something happens immediately. Vamps tend to learn how to do that in an amazing way. I can't even explain it, but Lord knows I'm guilty of it. And I know I'm guilty of it because a lot of people tell me a lot of times I'm heartless and I'm cold. If I tried to tell everybody to hit me up and tell me how many times, as a vampire anyway, how many times vampires have heard that, it'd be millions and millions of times. A vamp might not go through all the emotions or the motions of the emotions at that moment, but do it later when it's convenient for them. The only person that's going to know for sure at that moment if the vampire is feeling a certain emotion or what emotion they're feeling is that vamp, if that vamp chooses not to show it. And now you know where certain books and TV shows and movies get that little switch where they choose not to care idea from. Let's talk about another one. Urges. That uncontrollable force that causes a newly turned vamp to physically do or try something they normally didn't give a damn about or normally wouldn't. This is one of the most famous things that the media got all vanilla and mundane people thinking all vampires do or all vampires are about. Those urges. I need to feed, attack this person. I want to have sex. Let's go seduce somebody. They make it seem like vamps go on a binge when they get a little bit hungry. No one's going to go on a binge. The whole idea of a binge comes from the brain telling the body, hey, we're lacking. The brain and the body get together and say, hey, let's do it. And the vampire will do what comes naturally. What comes naturally to them and what comes naturally to anybody, what comes naturally to any animal. They go out to eat. Also, due to the different changes, be it chemical or physical changes that the newborn vamp seems to be going through, they might also seem to constantly need to feed, constantly need to eat, or constantly need to sleep, whatever. This is just the body's way of reacting to stress in some way, shape, or form, be it mental stress, physical stress, whatever. People go through this all the time. It's the body trying to heal. Think about it. When a person is sick, stressed, really angry, really sad, they're going to either eat a lot or eat too little, or they're going to sleep a lot or lose sleep. It's the same thing with vampires, probably to a different degree, but it's the same thing. Now, this is where having a good sire comes in at, or good sires come in at. So parents, take care of your damn kids. Having good sires or a good sire is the key to being a respected vamp and growing up in the vampire community nicely. I say this because the better a person is at showing a newborn the ropes, how to do this and how to deal with that, the better, the easier the awakening will be for them. Maybe even the faster the awakening will be for them. A bad awakening will create a very negative, toxic, and destructive vampire. I say this because, obviously, if the vampire has to raise themselves after being awakened, they'll end up having to do savage things to survive, like taking advantage of people to feed or overfeeding, and more than anything, being destructive and causing a lot of problems within the vampire community. And probably most important, not giving a damn about who they hurt, the destruction they cause, or what problems come out of it. All they're worried about at that moment is what it is they want at that moment, which is a bad way to live life for vampire or mundane alike. Sounds familiar? That's because that's how animals are in the animal kingdom. Everything I'm saying now about vampires, newly turned vampires, and their destructive behavior is exactly what you see on Channel 13 when you were a kid. For those who are of a certain age. I'm 21. That's just the typical way of life for animals. They hurt and kill each other to eat, to stay alive, and to feed their young. Not all of us are going to be lucky enough to be grabbed up by elders or respected, experienced people in the community, in the vampire community, that understand and can teach and train correctly so that you could grow up to be respected and not a wild, savage animal. So now you know where a lot of vampire, some werewolf, TV shows and movies and such get their ideas from. Now you see where some of the stories and such come from. The relation between how things are in the underground vampire community and vampires in recent media are becoming more and more obvious. And this is one of the reasons why every vanilla person that's a fan of the TV shows and movies think that people just dress up a certain way and try to live like this because it's what's hot right now. But that's a video for another day. I'm gonna go on and on and on about awakening because there's a lot to this, but I'm not because time. So tell me, what was your awakening like? How was your awakening? What good things happened? Was it horrible? Was it violent? Was it beautiful? A beautiful romantic Twilight story with nice violin music playing? Were you bit by a werewolf and scratched by a zombie at the same exact time and fell unconscious and woke up and you was a vampire? Shit, let me know. If that happened, let me know. That'd be a good story. Let me know and we will shoot a video about that. Anyway, let me know how your awakening was. Hit me up on the Gram Machine. Tell me what your awakening was like. Who's your favorite vampire in media? Mine are bedbugs. As they say in Transylvania, bye. This is and they can not feel it at that moment. No, that ain't right. Now the music is calming down, and I got loud people, high-pitched female voices screaming in the hallway while I'm trying to record. Oh, I'll wait. I'll wait. I mean, I'm not recording or nothing. Y'all keep talking in the hallway. It's all good. Noise. Noise. Negative, toxic, or destructive, or destructive.